let me introduce you to two words that are important for our society. The first one is patriarchy, and the second is stereotype or bias. The term patriarchy comes from the Greek patria, lineage, descent, from pater, father, and archo, command, and means the law of the father. It is a word that refers to the dominance of the father within the family, a father that holds all the power, economical and cultural one. In the patriarchal family, it is the father who provides for the economic well-being of the whole family, but at the same time who decides the rules of the house. It is fundamental to study the family organization as it represents the core of society. An organization whose purpose is to raise, prepare, and educate its youngest members. The family acts as the primary socialization agency and contributes to the definition of each person's identity, values, and view of the world. It is within the family that the differentiation between male and female begins, and it is there that we first observe roles and social norms. So it is important to realize that if the family is organized through a patriarchal model, we will learn a very different set of values than if the family is organized through a matriarchal one, where the mother holds the power. The majority of societies, though, have been organized through a patriarchal set. Society setup has also important roles and responsibilities which are assigned to men and women. These roles are not biological predefined, but learned through cultural context, but also through families, colleagues, communities' inputs. We can say that gender roles are the set of expected behaviors based on the individual's sex. However, gender roles may be so rigidly established that can risk to settle into gender stereotypes. Gender stereotypes are therefore the result of inflexible expectations about male and female behaviors within a sociocultural context. The transmission of gender stereotypes within the family is still widespread. In fact, stereotypical gender roles are often transmitted to boys and girls through toys, clothing, activities, school text, and the language used through which boys and girls are taught what it means to be a male or a female. For women, it is not so uncommon, even nowadays, to define femininity with qualities which are physical appearance, sensitivity, caring attitude, fragility, and need for protection, and a minor inclination for scientific subjects. For men, at the same time, it is still common to say that men should not show their emotions or that they are defined by physical strength and independence, or professional and financial success, and that they are, even nowadays, not inclined for domestic care. It is important to realize that gender stereotypes are a potential cage and need to be recognized because, if brought to the extreme, may also lead to harassment and violence against women. Prejudice and violence against women, in fact, are also the result of a patriarchal culture. The etymology of the word stereotype is stereos, rigid, and typos, imprint. And the word is born in France and is related to the printing process. At the end of the 18th century, French printers started to experiment a different way of printing using metal sheets, which were called stereotype or cliché. And through the duplication on one metal sheet, it was easy to reproduce the same image over and over. The same duplication, in fact, happens in our mind with stereotypes. For our brain, biases are a mental shortcut to get problems solved as quickly as possible, while conscious thinking requires significant cognitive effort, which is why it is activated only when it's strictly necessary. Biases, on the contrary, act very quickly by processing information unconsciously, storing it automatically and instinctively in those categories that we created during our lives as a consequence of our personal experience and culture. Biases are, for example, unconscious, automatic, instinctive, and they can be clustered in different groups. There are the generalization biases. I do not have information and therefore I generalize. An example, a woman with young children will not have time for an important or complex job. There are also the simplification biases. I do not have enough time and therefore I simplify the facts. Let me give you an example. Men don't like to talk about their feelings. The selection biases work like cherry picking. I do not have too much information and decide to sort out only the most familiar ones. Since women legally have the same rights as men, we already reached gender equality. And what about the association biases? I'm not familiar or I don't know a situation and therefore I associate it with one I have already experienced. For example, women are naturally more nurturing so they can make better teachers. But my preferred one, because sooner or later we all fall into this one, is the similarity bias. The similarity bias occurs when we believe that people similar to us are better than others. This is the reason why we generally select, without realizing, a work group that embraces colleagues who have similar characteristics to ours in terms of education, culture, or habits. We are all familiar with the all boys or girls work teams. Relevant examples for this bias is the board of directors, which have until recently counted almost exclusively the presence of male figures. For this reason, the Gulf of Moscow law introduced a mechanism aimed at making gender representation within these bodies more balanced. This frame of mind, if not handled, can be dangerous because it can lead to a non-inclusive mindset. Inclusiveness, instead, is essential for our fruitful exchange of different ideas and the base for a more creative and effective work. So far, we learned that biases are tricky because we are unaware of them and often we do not recognize them. Yet, they are so powerful in shaping our ideas, our habits, and view of the world. But are they so invincible? Is there a way out? The reply is definitely yes, but it's hard work. The starting point is to recognize that we all have biases, and therefore, you and I are equally biased. Then, to mitigate the effects of unconscious biases in decision making, here are some suggestions to become less biased. When you embark on a new situation or when you start working on a new project, first, keep an open mind and start from scratch. Second, consider all the information you already have and try to be selective but impartial. Third, challenge the status quo. Work out alternative solutions and ask yourself, what if? And finally, question and question your point of view ruthlessly. Listen to the insights of those who are different from you. To talk about biases and patriarchy is to look for the roots of the complex phenomenon on gender-based violence. stereotypes, and the resulting gender roles nurture a power imbalance that underlies all acts and behaviors that harm women and their rights.